Hi, everybody. Welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. It's Wednesday today. I almost forgot what day it was. It's Wednesday today, and here I am. I'm going to do a technique with you. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I asked for ideas of techniques, and I'm still looking for ideas. So if you have ideas that you'd like to see of a technique that you're not sure how to do, leave me a comment on this video, leave it a comment on my Facebook group, send me a private message or send me an email, and I'm happy to, if I don't know how to do it, figure it out, because it's kind of fun for me to figure out some techniques. This was one of those techniques that I think it was Sandy who asked me to do the embossing, no, not embossing, Epsom salts, E-words, Epsom salts salt technique. And if you saw or purchased the Winter Meadow suite from the mini catalog, it was so pretty, and the designer series paper was absolutely stunning, and it had a lot of images that were done using this technique. Gives a little bit of a crystalline effect to your colors. Hey, Deborah, welcome. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. I've done one and dried it. One of the techniques, one of the tips I can give you for this is make sure you let your ink, I'm using watercolor, the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. If you let it dry, I'm not sure how you turn the closed captions on. I'm sorry. I think it happens after the fact, and if I don't know how to do it on the fly. I have to look that up. Sorry. Yeah, so one of the tips with this is let it dry. The sample I have, I actually used my heat tool on it. So you get a more of a defined effect with the crystals if you actually let it dry naturally. You also get different techniques depending on, hey Lynn, depending on the salt you use. So if you use Epsom salts versus I'm just using table salt, or if you use like pickling salt, for example, that has much bigger crystals, you will get a different effect. All right, enough chatter. Let me switch over and let me show you. Now, this is a little far away, and if I bring it up, you can just kind of see it. This is Fluid 100 paper, and it is, I've used Pretty Peacock, and you just can kind of see, in fact, it's still a little rough from where the salt was on it. So you can kind of see where the crystals were, but you get a much more pronounced effect. One, if you let it dry naturally instead of the way I did it using, I wanted to get this done so I could show you something. I used my heat tool. And two, if I'd used salt other than table salt, which is really kind of fine little grains of salt, if you use something like a pickling salt, you will get a much more pronounced effect. But it's kind of a cool technique that you can use and then dress it up. So let me show you how easy this is actually. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of watercolor, the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. I cut it to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I have just adhered it onto my silicone mat using some washi tape just to hold it in place so the edges don't curl up, because you're going to wet this. So take your spritzer. So I've got water in my spritzer. Now you do want it to be quite damp, which is why it takes a while to dry. So you do want it to be kind of glistening. So if I bring this up, you can kind of see, you can see that there's, it's quite damp. Now I took, I'll move this out of the way. This is just a clear block. Oh, I got ink all over my hands. I took a clear block and I put a couple of drops of Pretty Peacock on, and I use, this is what I use. So this is the leftover. So I'm just going to take and add some more water to it. Doesn't matter that I get it all over. And this is just a water painter. Okay. And I'm just going to take it, it creates a kind of a cool effect. I am just literally adding ink to my paper. And I do want a fair amount of this covered. So I'm just kind of dabbing it on and just letting it flow where it wants to flow. There. All right, put that out of the way. Okay, so we've still got this pretty wet. Now I've got, this is just regular salt that I grabbed out of the cupboard, and I'm just going to take and sprinkle it. And you can actually kind of see it start to move away. So you can see the little crystals, the salt has started to pick up some of that ink. So I really am going to leave this now because I'm going to just leave it and let it dry on its own. But what I'm going to do is make a card using that other piece that I have made. Again, just leave it dry. It's probably going to take 12 hours or so to completely dry. Then you can just take it off the silicone mat, take the washi tape, and I actually trimmed my piece to, did I trim it to? 3 3/4 by 5, just because I had quite a bit of white around the edge. And once it's dry, you can rub the salt off. This has still got little bits of salt on it, so just take and rub the salt off. All right, so I grabbed a piece of Pretty Peacock. I'm gonna move this out of the way so I don't get it all over me. Okay, so I grabbed a piece of Pretty Peacock cardstock that's cut 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, and I'm going to score it at 4 1/4. And as always, fold into the mountain or the raised line. It's going to be a pretty simple card because I just really want the color to be the star of the show. So I cut a piece. This is a distressed gold specialty paper. So I thought just a little bit of gold behind would just kind of make that pop. So I'm going to use liquid glue. If you're, actually before I do that, I'm going to take my scissors and distress this a little bit. It already is. It didn't cut perfectly, so I'm just taking my scissors and just rubbing them over the edge, and it just kind of distresses that edge. If you tear it, it's not the end of the world. We're just going to make this just a little bit distressed. What made me think of this is my edges weren't, there was a little bit of raggedness to my edges. So you can kind of see I've got a little bit of ragged edge. If the liquid glue doesn't hold it down, if your edge is curled, maybe you didn't use washi tape or something to hold it in place, you could use tear and tape adhesive to adhere it down. All right, so I'm going to grab some linen thread that I happen to have some linen thread. So before I glue that down, I've got a piece of Very Vanilla. I'm going to use, I really like this layering leaves. I used this the other day, did some watercoloring with it. I really like the sentiments on this one, this thank you very much. So that's the sentiment that I'm going to use. So I cut my piece of Very Vanilla. What did I cut it? 1 inch by 2 1/2, which is what size I need for my sentiment. Sometimes I fussy cut. Today I actually figured out what size I'm going to need, and I'm just going to stamp on it, and then I'm going to put a layer behind it. Hopefully that's straight-ish. Okay, now I should put something on the inside of this card. Let's use, in this same stamp set, there is, oops, oh, there we go. I was frozen for a minute. It's kind of splatter. Kind of freaked me out because my hands didn't reappear. So I'm just going to take and stamp that. Kind of fits for the, hey Pam, fits for the inside of the card. Okay, now I have another piece of Pretty Peacock that I cut. Let's see, what did I do? So I 1 1/4 by 2 3/4. So I'm going to adhere this flat. And then I'll pop up this piece of Pretty Peacock. Like that. So I'm putting quite a few dimensionals on here. It's quite a large piece. I don't want it to sag and I don't want it to wobble. So we'll put 6 dimensionals on. Before I do that, the linen thread. So I'm just going to take and wrap my linen thread. I don't know what I was doing with red, but I have red on my hands. All right, I'm going to just take and wrap this around 2 or 3 times. Hold it, pinch it in the middle, and then I'm just going to take and just put some Stampin' Seal, maybe. There we go. Even after I let it dry and use the heat tool, my my watercolor paper is still a little bit damp. Probably should have thought about this earlier and created a sample earlier this morning, but you get the idea. All right. Okay. That on like that. And then this piece. Now, if you don't want to use a whole piece of the distressed gold behind this, use a piece you can cut out of the middle of it. So cut some shapes out of the middle of it before you adhere it down. And that's not, then you haven't kind of wasted this because I've got a big piece that I haven't used. Isn't that pretty? I really love it. It would be really pretty in some different colors as well. And so this will go on the inside of the card. And then I did grab some embellishments as well. These are one of my favorite embellishments. These are the adhesive backed glitter sequence. And unfortunately, they are retiring. They were part of the Very Cute suite, but I still have quite a few left. So I guess I'll use white. I was thinking I was going to use the Parakeet Party colored ones, but I think I'm just going to use white. They're so pretty. All right, there we go. So that is, and I will, when I do this, I will be sharing this in a blog post coming up. And when I do that, I will share both cards because I think when I leave the other one, which is starting to dry, I think it will have I think you'll get more of a crystalline effect from it. So we'll see how it goes, but I will share both cards on the blog post when it goes live. All right, there we go. So that is the salt technique, or Epsom salts. Be interesting to see what Epsom salts does. I think there's some large crystals in Epsom salts, but if you've got some like Himalayan salt, Himalayan pink, Himalayan salt, some of those, it would be interesting to try and see what they give you. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me today. Tomorrow I'll be live at 2 o'clock with a mystery challenge. And so the clue for the mystery challenge will go live about 9:30 in the morning. So come join me tomorrow, get your supplies ready and come make a project with me. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me. Happy stamping. Bye.